Welcome to Amplified, Hub71's flagship podcast. My name is Peter Abu Hashim, and I head growth and strategy at Hub71. Today's podcast will answer kind of a bold question. Is the future of money in Abu Dhabi or San Francisco? So I'm joined today by Brian Shroder. Welcome, Brian, to this episode. It's great to have you on board with us. Before this podcast, and last night, I asked the team to do a bit of digging on Brian as a human. And one of the first insights I saw in the brief was a quote, and I'm going to quote you on exactly what you said. Brian is not a fan of being in the spotlight. I dislike social media. And my worst nightmare is seeing or hearing myself on TV or in 2025 on an iPhone screen, probably. So tell me, what made you be here today? What made you
that's good research, I guess, by your team. No, I'm not. In the crypto industry, I think that I'm a little bit different than everyone else. And One Money, the company that we created, is also a little bit different than everyone else. And because a lot of times what you see is people focused on the hype first and then figuring out the business later. And so from my point of view, I like to reverse it, right? Like I like to build something that has utility and make sure that it works and that it's perfect, and then start to talk about it. Even at my previous roles at Binance US, we did things differently where we typically announced products when they were live. Okay. Whereas everyone else announces, hey, in 6 to 12 months, something is going to be live, and it's more stylistically, I think, for me that way.
And do you feel as a founder of your own company, you have to be more in the spotlight? That's more of a necessity than just a nice cherry on top?
I think it's important when you have a product that people can use to be in the spotlight. The nice part about One Money is that we also have an amazing executive team, right? Yeah. So we have executives from all walks of life, from TradFi, from fintech, from tech, who are decades of experience their own. So it's not just me. So we can send many more people out into the world to talk about One Money when we have things live.
So tell me a bit more about this. So how did you get to that executive team? Who's the team behind One Money?
So One Money is a stablecoin company. And we have a couple different products. The one that we're really focused on now is the One Money Network, and we can talk a little bit more about that. But as a stablecoin company, we feel like we've done a really good job of assembling kind of the Avengers of stablecoin executives. So in addition to myself, I co-founded the company with my brother, which is really fun. So far, we haven't ruined Thanksgiving yet. Nice. But he comes from a background of originally, an auditor for banks at Deloitte. He was one of the first employees at Uber, and he was a part of scaling Uber globally. His last role was leading kind of all of product ops for Uber. Wow. And then he was also one of the first Western hires at Binance. So Matthew scaled Binance globally. And so outside of Matthew, we've done a really good job. Our chief legal officer was the former associate general counsel of Circle, kind of overseeing USDC and regulatory and licensing for them globally. Our chief compliance officer was the former chief compliance officer of Facebook when Facebook was building their payment network and their stablecoin kind of infrastructure. Our chief information security officer was the CISO of Ripple. So he left Ripple to join us. And we have a lot of other employees that we have picked from tech, fintech, and Web3 companies.
Awesome. What about your background?
So my background is I started out doing consulting as a tech company at IBM. Did that for a couple of years, and then I joined a healthcare startup company that was a mobile healthcare app. Went back and got my MBA at Harvard. After Harvard, I spent 6 years at the Boston Consulting Group. Last year there, I helped launch BCG Digital Ventures, which is a product subsidiary of BCG that actually does core app development. Okay. And then I also ended up joining Uber in the early days. So I moved to Hong Kong to run strategy, business, and corporate development for Uber based out of Asia. Was there for a couple years, and then joined Ant Financial, one of the largest fintechs in the world, leading Southeast Asia for them, growing payment companies around the world, and then moved back to the US in 2021 to become CEO of Binance US. Was there for a couple of years before leaving to start One Money.
Wow. So I remember the first time we met, actually, you guys were pitching in the final committee of Hub71,
Yes.
and we saw Harvard, Uber, CEO of Binance US, all the logos you need to make a successful founder. And this was kind of a trigger for us to say, these guys are onto something. Obviously, One Money was doing a lot, and the numbers make sense. Tell us a bit more how that journey unfolded from you starting off in advisory and consulting and moving into different product roles and leading a whole entity like Binance in the US, where, as we know, the regulators were kind of knocking on everyone's door and giving them a hard time. Tell us a bit more about the journey and how you transitioned into becoming your own founder of your own company.
Yeah, from a founder perspective, after HBS, working for BCG for 6 years, I think was an incredible developmental role. Like, they did a really great job of teaching you how to break down problems and analyze and do the right storytelling. But at the end of the day, as a consultant, you can only give advice, right? Yeah. And so I found it very frustrating to give what I thought was really great advice to corporations in order for it to sit on a shelf and no one actually action on it. So I got the hunger effectively to, like, I want to take the ball myself. I want to create the advice and then actually execute and implement it. And so that's what drove me to leave BCG to actually go into to work for Uber. Huge fan of tech. I think tech is one of the few industries where, a small line of computer code can actually impact millions of people around the world. And we saw that very much at Uber, right? Taking a small, originally taxi app and then blowing it up into what it is today. My first 2 years, at Uber, I probably would have done for free.
Okay.
Because I just loved it so much. It was just, I was very passionate about the company. I was fully aligned with the mission, and we were doing so well, rolling out Uber to the rest of the world. And, same for Ant. I think Ant was an amazing experience. I obviously came from the US Western side tech, and then so working for a Chinese company was also very interesting. Incredible focus on tech talent and execution, and super fun to help scale Binance to the US. And now I'm very excited to be in the full driver's seat. No one else to blame but myself, which is kind of how I like it.
Awesome. I will go a bit more into the Binance US story because I'm interested to see what happened there during the whole regulatory issues that were happening in general in crypto in the US. But I'd like to ask your opinion on something. So I relate a lot with you. I come from a consulting background myself. When I was hired to set up a strategy in Hub71, I'm like, I fell in love with this place. I feel this is my own startup. Exactly. We're building a tech ecosystem where we're affecting people's lives, not through code, but through actually enabling them. And we have actual families and people moving to Abu Dhabi into what we've built today. And that's very rewarding. Now, thinking of who's listening to this podcast and who are the personas listening to you, there's a few people that are stuck in their corporate jobs. Some might love it. They love the safety. Some might be frustrated and want to leave. There's a few people that are embarking on their new career journeys and want to be founders. They're lost in the noise, the LinkedIn noise, the Twitter noise, the X noise of what it is to be a founder. Wake up 5 a.m., do your ice bath and so on. We were talking about this before the podcast. One piece of advice for these two different personas, a bit of a risk-averse person who's happy with the salary but also is frustrated versus someone who's starting their career. Looking back at your career, you mentioned I worked 2 years and I would have done it without a salary. How can people pursue this passion? How can people find what they actually love? And is entrepreneurship for everyone? I think I asked you a lot of questions in this one, but...
I think that for the person that's in a corporate career today, probably the first thing that they need to get comfortable with is, you need to get comfortable with the thought of failing, right? You need to know that if you leave your safe corporate world, right, that you might embark on an adventure, and that adventure might end up in you having to, start something else, right? And so I think the right mentality for them is you have to prepare yourself to go on an adventure, right? And an adventure is not something when you set out to do saying, oh, it's going to be perfect. It's going to be flawless, right? That's not what an adventure is. An adventure is an exciting embarking into the unknown, right? And so when you go into the unknown, you have to be prepared that bad things will happen, but you also need to be prepared for good things to happen. But it's not about whether or not bad or good things happen. It's about the fact that you're actually embarking on something exciting. And so you have to, I think, embrace the adventure part of leaving the corporate environment. And once you, I think, fully do that, then you're ready to go, try a few things. And so it's not about being able to kind of pick the perfect opportunity for you or the right moment to do it. I think it's more about a philosophy and a mindset, and then you just jump.
Love it. So it's less about what is it exactly that you're doing, more about the mindset and
yes,
accepting that risk and unknown.
Totally. And then, when you're out there on your adventure, you'll start to figure out, hey, like I like doing these things or I don't like doing these things. And that's a part of how you can triangulate and, continue on to the next adventure that you'll love more.
Love it. And looking at your career as well, you went from doing strategies for other people to doing strategies for not you as a founder, but for a company you work on. And then doing it yourself in your own company. Obviously, there was a lot of frustrations along the way. As Brian, as a person, how did you manage that stress? What was your outlet when everything was falling apart and you just needed to take a step back and say, am I doing the right thing? What's your outlet?
I try and keep myself physically and mentally healthy, right, by just having good health routines. So I'm a big fan of, having a consistent workout schedule. I try and get, my 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I am on the vitamins. And I think that when you get into a routine and you're taking care of your body and your mind, you're able to absorb a lot more chaos. And so you kind of roll with the punches. Whereas if you're not, then it's harder, I think, to absorb that.
Fully agreed with you. And I think it also kind of removes a bit of decision making throughout your day when you know what diet you're doing, when 100%. You know what time you're working out, and you have that routine. It's just less decisions to take during the day as a founder.
I do try and do that too. I have 5 of these shirts, and so it's easy for me to just say, what am I wearing today? This, probably the same thing, people will see in me in every day. If I could, I would just have a prepaid meal plan, so I don't even have to think about ordering lunch. And so I like to optimize for reducing the amount of decisions that I have to take. And the nice part about, if you do it in advance is you can plan it so that it's healthy, right? So if you just pre-order chicken and broccoli, that's what you're eating today,
I see the team nodding their head. That's people make fun of me in the office. I only eat chicken and broccoli and rice. It's just less decisions to take during the day.
Yeah.
So you were leading Binance in the US, the largest market in the world, in the toughest time for crypto, when the SEC was just holding the magnifying glass and just following all the crypto companies and giving them a hard time. How did that experience shape you into the person you are today? What were the frustrations? What are the do's and don'ts that you'd give as advice to founders who are working with tough regulators as well?
Yeah, I mean, that was a crazy time. When I first got to Binance, we were kind of given one goal, which was to kind of take on Coinbase in the US. And that was kind of the only direction that we were given. In order to do that, we ended up raising about $500 million to do that. We grew the team to 550 employees. And then we embarked on a journey where we focused on bringing value to the customer, launching new products and services, launching new payment methods. We were the first in the world to launch free Bitcoin trading, which is a pretty exciting adventure. And I think that our relentless pursuit in focusing on the customer value allowed us to grow to about 35% of the US market share, which was a huge achievement for us at the time. The challenge for us was actually from multiple directions. Initially, it was around banking providers in the US. And with a lot of the focus on, government actions trying to clamp down on crypto trading, that was difficult. And then the banks started failing in the US themselves. So it was harder to provide banking partners. And if you don't have fiat on and off ramps in the US, you were effectively dead. And so that was very challenging. And then obviously the regulatory environment at the federal and state level was always very crypto skeptical. And so for us, it was more about being able to, again, hire like really senior executives that came from the world's best companies that could actually articulate, and have dialogues with regulators, address their concerns systematically, be able to present well to the banking world so that we could get the bank accounts. And we did very, very well up until the very last SEC push, which was very difficult on everyone. So as the audience probably knows, the SEC ended up suing, Coinbase and Kraken and Binance US and all of us. But now that's all changed. So now that there is a much better regulatory environment in the US, and the stablecoin legislation just passed a couple of weeks ago, which is fantastic. And now the Congress is working on more sustainable crypto regulation. So I'm pretty bullish that all of that will be passed in the next couple of months as well.
Nice. And maybe a small story from my side. As this was happening in the US, we were sitting here in Abu Dhabi in 2021, 2022, thinking, we have crypto regulations in ADGM since 2018.
Yes.
We have the open-minded regulator. Let's look at launching something to attract these companies, running away from all these different jurisdictions. It wasn't just US, it was Singapore, it was Switzerland, Hong Kong. And I think this is the initiative that came to life that we call Hub71 Plus Digital Assets that you're part of, which takes me to the next question on One Money. So you kind of acted as a founder of a entity, which is Binance in the US, because you were leading that entity's growth and getting to a specific market share. And now you're redoing this with One Money in Abu Dhabi, and you chose Abu Dhabi as a jurisdiction to be in. So I have two questions. First one is, can you tell us what One Money is in very basic terms for the non-crypto audience? And then number two, tell us a bit more about the Abu Dhabi story. What got you to look at this region first, and how does the relation with the regulator, the government in general, compare to your experience with Binance in the US?
Yeah. So One Money is a stablecoin company. So it's probably important to establish what is a stablecoin. So stablecoin is a digital representation of a fiat currency. So you have one stablecoin. What that means is behind that one stablecoin, there is $1 in an account somewhere, a bank account, a money market fund, a treasury that represents the fiat version of the stablecoin. And so at all times, the number of stablecoins that are minted on a specific stablecoin should be backed 1-to-1.
Okay.
And so why is that better? So it's better because when you look at kind of the history of technology, it's always been about adopting industries to operate in a 24/7, 365 environment. One of the last industries to actually be disrupted by this sort of, going online, so to speak, is finance. Yeah. Even in One Money, when raising money for One Money, we could only operate within banking hours, which, is Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. If there's a holiday, you can't bank. If there's a weekend, you can't bank. Yeah. And so you actually are restricted by the amount of time that you can actually touch your money. Stablecoins enable what we're all used to now, which is being able to access your money 24/7, 365. So I can send and receive money no matter what time of day it is. And so we just believe that stablecoins will be the foundation for all finance in the future. And so One Money itself is a company that's focused on if the world moves to a financial system that's powered by stablecoins, how will that stablecoin move throughout the ecosystem? Right now on the fiat side, you have banks, you have correspondent banks if you're doing international remittance. If you're a consumer, you're using Visa or MasterCard or Amex, right, to do your payments. But what is the future of that money movement in the stablecoin environment? We believe that we are building a network on which we've optimized exclusively just for stablecoins. Okay. And we've designed it to be kind of the fastest, the cheapest, and the most compliant way to send the stablecoin. And so to answer your question, when we created One Money, we obviously started the company in the US. But as we were looking to expand outside the US, the question is, where is the money movement? And so when you look at the kind of the flows of money globally in terms of outflow, the US market is number one. The second market for outflow is right here.
Wow.
So we wanted to be co-located where all the money movement is happening, because we want to be a part of the money flow and the movement in the future.
All right. And what's One Money as a name? What does it stand for?
Good question. So I think we wanted to have something that spoke to the fact that we are one kind of global world. We are one money system. Money should be fungible, so you should be able to move it seamlessly, right, between currencies. And so it's more about kind of the unity of money and the movement of money.
Lovely. And again, when the team dug up some information, one of the quotes that came up was, "We move very fast in One Money because we don't have a token." So maybe just explain this logic to us a bit. Why do companies launch tokens, and why did you decide not to have your own token?
So a part of like our first principle philosophy at One Money was, how do we create a world where Uber and Starbucks and Amazon are comfortable accepting stablecoin payments on chain? And so when you talk to these companies today and you say, what's your hesitancy around stablecoin adoption? There are kind of 4 key areas that they point to in terms of areas of concern. So the first area of concern for most of these corporations is speculative asset trading.
Okay.
So today, in order to send a stablecoin, you have to hold gas fees in whatever network you're using, right? So if you're sending stablecoins on Ethereum, you have to hold ETH. If you're sending it on Solana, you have to have Sol. What we were told is that, Fortune 500 CFOs are like, there's no way that I'm going to use corporate treasury money to buy a speculative asset, especially if that speculative asset has the ability to decline 80% within like a week's time, right? It's just not something that I'm going to do. So that's number one. Number 2 was actually around performance, specifically relating to settlement time. So depending on what network you're using today for stablecoin transactions, the settlement times are highly variable, right? Anywhere from under a minute to up to like 30 minutes per transaction. That just doesn't work for Starbucks, right? They're not going to accept a stablecoin payment, have the cashier refresh a block explorer,
and just wait for like half an hour,
and then hand you your cup of coffee 15 minutes later whenever there's the transaction is final. So that was an area of concern. Number 3 was actually cost, right? So all of the networks today that have stablecoins have highly variable gas fees. So in the last like 24 months, an Ethereum stablecoin transaction could cost you anywhere from under $1 to up to $50 per transaction. As a corporation that likes P&Ls and forecasting and budgeting, you can't really budget for a future platform of stablecoin uses if you don't know what the costs of a stablecoin transaction will be in 6 hours, let alone in 6 months. And then the final piece was around compliance. So U.S. firms don't want to use networks that have North Korean validators validating their transactions. EU companies don't want to be included in the same block transaction as a known terrorist wallet address. And so we launched One Money to address all of these issues. And so we are the first layer 1 protocol that does not have a native token. So what that means is that we've designed a protocol that whatever asset is minted on the One Money network becomes the native asset when being used. So what that means is that if the user is using a USD stablecoin in the One Money network, the gas fees are priced in USD.
Okay.
If they're using an AED stablecoin on the network, the gas fees are priced in AED.
Okay.
And so we've eliminated the requirement to have to hold 2 different assets in a wallet in order to send a stablecoin. Now the only thing that you need to send a stablecoin is the stablecoin itself. So it eliminates a lot of the friction. To address the second point around speed, this is actually where all of us nerds got together and focused on actually designing a new consensus mechanism. So we wrote a white paper about 1.5 years ago where we focused on creating a protocol that uses Byzantine consistent broadcasting, or BCB for short. And what the BCB is it's a consensus mechanism that allows us to process transactions as they occur simultaneously with equal weight and equal priority. Okay. So all other blockchains today, if 1,000 people send a transaction at the same time, what happens is they actually have to order those transactions from 1 to 1,000 and then sequentially process them, right? That is highly inefficient for payments, because the more people that use it, the longer the queue is, the longer the wait time. And then the things breaks down, especially if it's like a Black Friday in the US, or, you know, a Double 11 in China, or other, you know, large events where there's lots of spending. We don't do that. So we don't have global ordering. We don't need MEV calculations. We don't have a mempool. Instead, what we do is we can process the transactions as they occur equally. And so we can effectively guarantee that all transactions are settled in under 1 second.
Wow.
And it most likely actually will be faster than that.
So you compete with Swift in a way.
Way faster than Swift. Truly
how's the lobbying
instantaneous.
on that side? Are you getting a lot of pushback from the industry?
No, I think, you know, we are getting actually a lot of inbound from banks saying, hey, could you please explain this technology and how it works? Because, you know, when you build something that's a truly instantaneous settlement process, then people get really excited about it, especially if they don't have to use, you know, a speculative asset with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How fast was it for you to get to this, what we call the MVP, getting the product market fit? Everyone knows the crypto world works at much faster speeds.
Yeah.
The AI world now is working at much faster speed than your typical timeline for a startup. So how fast was it from you guys getting this aha moment of, I'm building that company, which is One Money, up until you got that final product set in your mind where you know exactly what it's going to offer? So
I think that we spent a lot of time on the thesis and the strategy. And very simply, our thesis is the faster, cheaper, and more compliant you are, the more likely you are to win. So we set out to design something that we believe is actually will be the fastest, it will be the cheapest, and it will be the most compliant compared to kind of all the other things out there. The actual building of it takes a lot of time, unfortunately. So, you know, we had a choice. So it's taken about a year. So we had a choice to do it faster by becoming an L2, right? But in order to be an L2, we had to give up
the L1 token.
Exactly. You have to give, not only do you have to use the L1 token, you have to use the L1 for the settlement layer. So any L2 will never be faster than One Money because we've built this as a mainnet. So when you build it as a mainnet, you're literally starting with zero code and then building from there. So where we are today is we now have the One Money network testnet and developer portal live.
Okay.
So people at home can go to onemoneynetwork.com and look at our developer documents. They can mint, you know, stablecoins in a testnet environment. They can play around with the protocol. And so we're looking at more of a mainnet launch kind of towards the end of this year. Okay. And so that is actually pretty fast for an L1 mainnet development. So we're pretty proud of the tech team and what we've built to date.
Nice. You mentioned that it was important to set the thesis and the strategy before building. How important is vision when it comes to building a new company? Setting one vision, having just focus on this vision and don't do anything else. And could this be a double-edged sword where people or founders end up being not agile and just stuck to one single vision? What's the line between being...
I definitely think it's important to have like one vision to work towards, to kind of align yourself, your team, and your investors around. For us, it's, you know, money movement should be free and easy. So we're working towards a world where, you know, money, no matter what type of money, what currency, is, you know, seamlessly transferred at instant speeds. And so that, I think, is a vision that we can all get behind. I think that most people would agree that that is the future. So then the question is just, how do you get there? As a founder, you know, you obviously will get feedback from the market, you'll get feedback from your customers, and then you can adjust. But having like a higher top vision, I think is important because it's your North Star. And so you can always come back to, when you're making decisions in the moment, does it get us closer to our goal? And then, you know, adjust accordingly.
What's the toughest decision you've made with One Money? Something that got you back home at night saying, I'm tired, I just can't do this anymore.
You know, I haven't gotten there yet. So I haven't gotten to a decision where, and maybe it's just because we're pretty, big believers in the vision, and we also have an incredible team that we're able to troubleshoot issues together. So I never feel like I'm doing things alone or in a vacuum.
Are you guys very similar or different? So is there people who are more risk averse and see the risks in things?
No, I think that we're different, and I think that's what makes us strong, right? Like even my brother and I are like kind of yin and yang in terms of capabilities and skill sets. I don't think we fight. Fights. I think we can have when we were younger, yes, of course, but not now. And then within the company, he's very good at the things that I am not. And so we can have like really good discussions and dialogues, and at the end of the day we kind of agree, we stack hands, and then we move forward. Even if I came in with a different opinion, I think that it's nice to have this is what we're doing.
Quite healthy. Nice. And do you believe a founder should have a personal vision? So you mentioned before, I would have done it with no salary. You were enjoying your job. Obviously money is not the motive for you. Money's nice. We were talking before the podcast, money does buy happiness in a way.
It helps for sure.
But what drives you? What do you need? Your own personal vision outside your company's vision? Does the company's vision become your personal vision? Do you fight between these two personas of Brian the CEO, Brian the human, Brian the son, the brother? Tell us the different versions of yourself.
I think that for me, I enjoy building things. So creating something from scratch, having a vision for what you want, and then working hard to achieve it, and then be able to step back and say, a year or two ago, that didn't exist, but I created that, right? That to me is very rewarding. To the extent that people are using it and it has an impact on people's lives, that is, I think, the ultimate like North Star, right? Especially when it comes to money, right? If you reduce the cost of money movement, you basically save people money that they can keep in their pockets that they can use for other things. That becomes life-changing for people that are, doing international remittance, because every dollar that you save somebody from, let's say, moving money from the US to Mexico, that's money that they can put in their own pocket for rent or food or their children. And so I think that has a huge impact as well. And then on the day-to-day side, I think the things that make me the happiest is problem solving. I just love problem solving. So give me a problem, let me go try and figure it out, and then when we get to a solution, let's try and fix the problem. That to me is a very rewarding experience, which is why I think being in startups is the right place for me, because there are so many problems that can happen in a startup environment, and so I will never have a lack of problems.
All right. So you and your brother are in Thanksgiving dinner, and you wanna tell your family how successful, what you're proud of. 3-4 things about One Money. What are the top things I need to know about?
I think that, for us, Thanksgiving would be like here, try the product, right? I want you to send, Dad, I want you to try and send a stablecoin from your...
Including 8-year-old grandma or...
Our goal is to build something that is simple and intuitive. So if my dad can't do it, we should probably go back and solution around it, because that means the UI is not as intuitive as we want it to be. Because our goal is to obviously we will start with like the Web3 community, but we want to be able to pull in my sister who does not have a digital wallet account. I want her to be able to use stablecoins. My parents to be able to use stablecoins. And so we're thinking about the evolution beyond kind of the current community into like how we can impact and bring in kind of the next billion users into our environment.
Awesome. What's the next big milestone that excites you? What are you working towards?
So we're excited, obviously, we've turned over kind of our code base to the auditors now. So when we get the L1 audit done, that will be a huge milestone for us, because then we can actually work towards a mainnet launch. And so that will be a very exciting moment for us when we kind of, so to speak, cut the ribbon and push to production mainnet use.
Awesome. I think just to start ending things and getting your feedback for your advice, for the people watching this. I was looking at a TikTok yesterday of this influencer who stops random people on the street and says, in 2 minutes, I want to convince you to follow your dreams, and then starts working with them on what do you like, what's your dream, and why not jump into this. And imagine yourself as that influencer talking to whoever's watching, who are in their corporate jobs, who are starting their career journey and want to become founders, but that first step is just too difficult. And I know so many friends that have amazing visions, amazing ideas. They know what team they want to work with, but that first step of saying, I'm quitting my job, I'm taking that risk, I'm jumping into this black box, into the unknown, is very difficult.
Yes.
How can you give them this little nudge and push? What's your advice?
I would go back to it is very much like that. It feels like if you're ever like on a high dive, right, and you're just like you just got to jump, right, and you will be fine. at the end of the day, you will be fine. It might not be a pleasant experience, right? You might hit the water and it might hurt a lot, but at the end of the day, it will be exciting, and most likely it will probably be better than your current environment, especially if you're in your corporate job and you're very unhappy. I think that having more ownership as an entrepreneur is really motivating, and I think that the goal for life is to make work the reward. So if you can make work the reward, which I think as an entrepreneur you're much more likely to achieve because you're doing it for yourself, and you are your own boss, then happiness will come.
I love it. I think the next person who's gonna dig up information on you will get the quote "Just jump."
Just jump
by Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you so much for having me.
Super fun. Thanks for being a big part of the Hub71 and Abu Dhabi community, and hopefully we'll see you as one of the largest unicorns coming out of
I would
Abu
love
Dhabi.
that as well. Thank you so much.
Nice having you.
Cheers.